Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is a channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. Welcome to another vlog. I'm going to be trying something that I've seen a lot of people do recently. It sounds like an absolute chaos bringer, but I think it could be fun. And that is the can't stop vlogging or can't stop reading until I find a 5-star challenge thing, I guess. So basically this reading vlog is going to be me reading book after book after book, hoping and praying that I find a 5-star quickly and this vlog doesn't end up lasting 3 years. So what are we starting with? Frankly, I've been in a massive slump lately and I was scrolling through all the books I have on my Kindle and was really struggling to find one that I wanted to read. So I literally got a random number generator and was like, give me a number between 1 and 50, and it gave me number 4, and the 4th book on this list was Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. This is by Clawson, and I'm actually finding that I'm enjoying the book. I'm only very, very early into the story, like 50 pages, if that, so I don't know what it's about. So I'm going to read you the Goodreads blurb and we're both going to learn together what this book is about. So the blurb says, "Love is in the air in this royally good rom-com debut releasing in spring 2023. Perfect for anyone who likes relatable heroines with great hair, hot and aloof book boyfriends with great hats, near misses, almost kisses, and a corgi or two. Despite living in an actual castle, happily ever after is evading Margaret Maggie Moore. From her bedroom in the Tower of London, 26-year-old Maggie has always dreamed of her own fairy tale ending. Yet this is 21st century London. So instead of knights on white horses, she has catfish on Tinder. And with her last relationship ending in spectacular fashion, she swears off men for good. And then a chance encounter with Royal Guard Freddie forces Maggie to admit that she isn't ready to give up on love just yet. But how do you catch the attention of someone who is trained to ignore all distractions? Can she snare that true love's first kiss, or is she royally screwed? A right royal rom-com, perfect for fans of red, white, and royal blue, and the royal we." So far, we have met the main character, who is definitely in this state where her life seems to be an absolute mess. Everything seems to be going wrong for her. She's previously been in a relationship with a guy that has ended. She's now working at the Tower of London in the ticket offices. And honestly, she's just struggling. She's having a rough time. And then we've also met our hero, sort of. She basically bumps right into him on her way home and smashes this like pretty box that he has, which holds some beautiful jewelry in it. And he gets really pissed off, as you'd expect. She freaks out because she's like, oh my God, I can't pay to replace this box. She goes up to try and apologize to him the next day, but obviously he's, you know, being a guard, so he can't talk, but he winks at her, which makes her think, okay, maybe that means I'm forgiven. Maybe this is like, maybe there's something here. I don't know. But anyway, that's where I'm up to at the moment in the story. I'm really enjoying it so far. It's very comical. It's very much inside the head of someone who is just so chaotic because their life is chaotic, and it's really interesting, I guess, to be in that mind frame. And I won't lie, it can't hurt that the whole setting is the Tower of London, which, if you know me at all, is my favorite place in London. I love the history tied to this castle. I love that it's like this tower in central London surrounded by all these tall buildings, and it looks so out of place. There's something about that is just so romantic and beautiful and historical, and I love it. That definitely helps with the whole atmosphere of this story, as well as the fact that the author, I believe, used to live in the Tower of London. So she has this like inside knowledge, and you can really, really tell as you're reading the book because she knows about secret passageways and parts of the tower that you wouldn't know about unless you lived there. So I'm loving the read so far. It would be a really, really boring vlog if this one got 5 stars and it was just like a one and done, but hey, you never know, one can hope. As for what I'm doing now though, I'm going to keep reading, but I'm gonna head over to Greenwich and get myself an ice cream because it feels like the start of summer, and that means it's time to go to a proper ice cream parlor and get an ice cream. So I'm gonna go do that, and then yeah, I'll keep reading and I'll let you know my thoughts in a little bit. Don't you just love the random shit you find? There's a cruise ship, just chilling. And like in the middle of the Thames, because why the fuck not? Okay, it is Monday morning. It is a bank holiday day. It is like 8:41 in the morning, and I'm both like proud of myself and a little bit depressed that I am up so early on a holiday day. Like, I should be sleeping. I should be fast asleep right now. But instead, I got up at like 7 a.m., went to the gym, did my workout, got ready, tried on a bunch of new makeup that I bought the other day, or yesterday I think it was, and I'm not obsessed with it, but I don't hate it. So, you know, we'll go with it. But let's talk about my first read of this vlog, which was Falling Hard for the Royal Guard by Clawson. I finished this book last night and started my next book, which I'll tell you about in a bit. And this book I gave 2.5 stars. I went into it with such high hopes. I was so excited. I was really enjoying it first off. I love the Tower of London setting, but then as I got further and further into the book, I started enjoying it less and less and less, and then all in all, it came out at 2.5 stars. So unfortunately not the read for me. As for what I did like about it though, I really loved the Tower of London setting. I loved how live the book felt because I was familiar with all the locations that she was going to. Like, she was obviously in Tower of London, and she went to London Bridge, she went to Tower Bridge, she went to this beautiful old like ruined church called St Dunstan in the East, which I've been to and is again very, very gorgeous. I think I went to it in one of my day in the life vlogs when I went around London. I'll link it down below so you can check that out. I just loved how alive the book felt because I was really familiar with all of the locations. I also did enjoy the angst and the tension of the whole will they won't they thing that was going on between the two main characters, Freddie and Maggie. There was a plot line sprinkled in at the end there, which was very, very juicy. This was definitely a kind of guilty pleasure kind of book where I think you could read it in about 5 minutes flat if you were really just like sucked in. But as for what I didn't like about it, there was this impression that I got from the book around fat shaming and body image that I really didn't like. I wasn't sure if this was a sort of issue that the author was pressing onto her main character, something that she struggles with and therefore pressing onto her main character, or something where the author genuinely feels this way about other people who look like their main character, because just the constant emphasis on the weight and the fact that she would sweat a lot and how she felt so out of place, just the constant fat shaming that was going on in this story was just really uncomfortable to read, as well as the mass amount of self-hatred going on with this main character. I really would have loved to see a bit of a character arc, a bit of character growth around, you know, experiencing those emotions 100%, because that's fair, that's valid, that's something that I think is really important to discuss in romances where there is a plus size character as one of the main characters. But I think it's also really important to show growth and show an arc where the character just has small moments where they begin to love themselves a bit more, or they feel a bit more like themselves, or they hate on themselves a bit less. I think it's important to show that growth in these sorts of stories, and that just wasn't done in this book. So you finish the book having this belief that Maggie, our main character, still really, really hates herself, but is willing to sort of overlook it because she's got the love of this super hot, beautiful man who's, you know, 6 foot something, abs to the moon and all sorts of other things. It felt like the author was really trying to write this main character as just a person who she believed was really gross because of the language that she would use around her and the clear self-hatred that she would show from this character. So that was really, really uncomfortable to read, and I would have liked a little bit more development coming out of that. And the second thing that really, I guess, knocked my rating down was the will they won't they. Whilst I did enjoy the angst and the tension of it, and whilst I did enjoy the sort of other plotline that got thrown in there, I think there wasn't actually enough time where the characters were spent in a relationship together so that you could actually see what they would be like as a couple. I think the male hero, Freddie, was also very like alpha and would sort of force himself into situations with Maggie where she clearly didn't want him there, but he would just kind of push onto her that he was going to be there whether she liked it or not, and she just kind of seemed to accept that by the end rather than really enjoying it. I think there were a lot of logic issues as well as it relates to the King's Guard. There are just so many rules and regulations that these guys have to follow about, you know, keeping a straight face and not talking to anyone and all these sort of things while they're on shift, and so many of those were broken during the read. And I think that makes sense because obviously it's a romance, so you've got to have those cute scenes where she runs up to him, kisses him and all these sorts of things. But if that would have happened in real life, I think the King's Guard member would be fired. So there was just a bit of a logic issue there that I didn't love, and I thought it was kind of disrespectful, I guess, to the prestige of the King's Guard. But anyway, That is my thoughts on this book. I gave it 2.5 stars. There was just a lot of very, very uncomfortable wording around the main character in particular, and a lot of self-hatred that I really struggled to read. It was very uncomfortable to read. So unfortunately, this didn't end up as positively as I thought it would be going into it. But as for what I'm reading next, we are going to be reading Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Sutanto. This is an author that I only discovered when I went to Yalc last year in 2022 because I got an ARC for one of her books called Well That Was Unexpected. That book has now come out, but I still haven't read it, and I am planning to read my copy of it soon because I think it's on my TBR coming up pretty soon. But I thought I'd dip my toe in with Dial A for Aunties, which I know is a very, very well-loved story. As for what it's about, the Goodreads profile says, what happens when you mix one accidental murder with 2,000 wedding guests and then toss in a possible curse on 3 generations of an immigrant Chinese Indonesian family? You get 4 meddling Asian aunties coming to the rescue. When Madeline Chan ends up accidentally killing her blind date, her meddlesome mother calls for her even more meddlesome aunties to help get rid of the body. Unfortunately, a dead body proves to be a lot more challenging to dispose of than one might anticipate, especially when it is inadvertently shipped in a cake cooler to the over-the-top billionaire wedding Maddie, her ma, and aunties are working at an island resort on the California coastline. It's the biggest job yet for the family wedding business. Don't leave your big day to chance, leave it to the Chans. And nothing, not even an unsavory corpse, will get in the way of her auntie's perfect buttercream flowers. But things go from inconvenient to downright torturous when Maddie's great college love and biggest heartbreak makes a surprise appearance amid the wedding chaos. Is it possible to escape murder charges and charm her ex back into her life and pull off a stunning wedding all in one weekend? I mean, the blurb sounds absolutely fascinating. That is my first time reading the blurb, and all of that has happened so far in the part of the book that I'm up to. I'm about 30% in, and I'm really glad I didn't read the blurb before reading the book because it meant that I've enjoyed the 30% that I've read so far more, because a lot of those elements were a surprise to me rather than having seen them in the blurb. But now that I've read the blurb, I'm like, wow, I picked a good one. This sounds fun. And that's exactly what I'm feeling at the moment. A lot of this story is really, really fun. There was a fun little double or dual timeline thing going on at the beginning where you got to see Nathan and Maddie's relationship play out in the past and understand, I guess, what happened between them and why they broke up, as well as the current timeline where you've got all the meddlesome aunties trying to set up Maddie with a date because to their knowledge she's never really dated anyone, and they're like, you know, they want grandchildren, so they're trying to set her up on a date and she's just like, I don't want this. She's also dealing with the stress of this family curse where, like, I think every male in the family moves away, that's the curse, or leaves them. And so Maddie has a lot of pressure placed on her because she's expected to stay and she feels like she has to stay so that she doesn't live out this curse. She also feels like any relationship she gets into is going to be cursed because of this curse. She thinks every guy is going to leave her. So I think that definitely plays into that past relationship she had with Nathan, because she was a really like 1 foot out the door the entire time and decided that she was going to leave him before he had a chance to leave her. But anyway, I'm just up to the part where Maddie and Nathan bump into each other on this island and they see each other again for the first time since they broke up, and the angst is there, but the tension is also there because there is a dead body in the fridge at this restaurant on the island for this wedding, and they're trying to figure out how to get the dead body back to the aunt's house and get the actual cake to the wedding venue. And oh my god, I won't lie, it's given me like secondhand stress about my own wedding because I'm like, oh my god, like what if my cake doesn't arrive on time? I'm never worried about like a dead body being found at my venue, but like what if my cake doesn't arrive on time, or what if my florist is like not there? I don't know, it's kind of giving me secondhand stress, which is increasing the tension of the read a little bit more in a good way, but also a really, really bad way. But anyway, I'm gonna keep reading this book and I will come back in a bit to give you my thoughts. I don't really have any plans for the day. I'm literally just planning to sit and read and enjoy the peace and quiet of a bank holiday weekend. I know this is the sort of day where the crowds and crowds of tourists go to all the sorts of places where I like to go and relax, so they're not as relaxing today. But also, I know there was an amateur dog show yesterday, which I think I included in my b-roll, and I'm kind of intrigued about whether it's going to be on again today because it was so cute. Like the dogs there were adorable and I kind of want to see them again. I don't know, we'll see how we go later on in the day. I'll see if I get bored just sitting on the couch like reading, and maybe I'll go to Greenwich Park and you know, enjoy the sunshine a little bit. That might be a good idea. But anyway, that's the plan for the day. I am going to get back to reading this book, have some breakfast and some coffee, and I'll see you in a little bit. Really annoyed. I absolutely cannot shake this headache that I've got just sitting like right like on my eyebrows, like here. It's not like a migraine, it's just this annoying pain just right here. But Anyway, you don't care about that. I have just finished Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q Sutanto. I haven't actually rated this book yet, but it's definitely not 5 stars. I need to run it through Corpal, so I'll do that and then I'll update you afterwards. But as for my review for the story, I definitely enjoyed it to begin with. I think the characters are really the sort where you have to suspend disbelief completely when it comes to them, their relationships to each other, and what they're willing to do for each other. And that's not just the aunties and the sort of main character, Medi, I think her name is, but that is every character in this novel. Like, the ridiculousness of this novel is insane, but in a fun way, but also in a way that gets old after a while. The thing I think that was my issue with this book from the beginning is that, or not from the beginning, from like 100 pages in maybe, is that the banter and the arguments and the complaining and everything that you get from the aunties is really, really entertaining for the first bit of the book, but then it almost becomes their entire personality. And so you get to the middle of the book and it gets just a bit old after a while and you're like, okay, I get it. Like, Ma and fourth auntie hate each other. Big aunt and second aunt also hate each other. I get it, you can stop now. I really did like the main character, Medi, and I liked the development that she experienced and how she really came into her own by the end of the novel and was more willing to like stand up for herself. I loved the little romance plotline that we got in there, even though again, you have to completely suspend disbelief because what the guy is willing to accept and be okay with by the end of this is really just unexpected. Like, no way would you ever be okay with what this guy ends up being okay with. All the other side characters, again, just ridiculous. Like, they really take the sort of rich person stereotype, entitled everything to the nth degree, and it's entertaining, don't get me wrong. The mishaps that they find themselves in are so entertaining, but they're also so shoved towards the end of the book that nothing's really fleshed out enough to make it really fun. It's all kind of rushed in there towards the end. In terms of like the atmosphere and everything, I think this definitely gave me like secondhand stress when it comes to my own wedding. Like, I was beginning to think about all the different ways my own wedding could go wrong, and I'm like, oh my god, what if like the florist forgets the flowers, or the cake doesn't get it delivered to the right place, or like, it just gave me constant secondhand stress. So I guess in that way it was immersive and atmospheric, but I don't know how I would feel if I wasn't someone who was planning a wedding, or if I had already gotten married, and maybe I'd be able to enjoy it a bit more because I'd be able to really live in those stresses and be able to look back at them and laugh. I don't know. One thing I really did like is I liked how the various languages that the aunties spoke were really filtered into conversations, into the dialogue in the story. So it made a lot of the conversations that were happening feel very real, because you would have like colloquialisms that are very standard in Cantonese and Mandarin and Indonesian, like sort of filtered into this English dialogue. And the English dialogue as well would be very clear that it was like the second language of these aunties. But at the end of the day, I think my intrigue really waned towards the end of the story because, as I said before, like the characters and everything that was happening to them just got really, really rushed towards the end of the book, and everything was kind of shoved in there. It felt like at the end of the story, Jessie Q Sutanto, the author, was kind of like, screw it, why not? Whenever she had an idea about a new plot element, and just like shoved it in there at the end and didn't really flesh those things out as much as I would have liked. So yeah, I will run it through Corpal in a sec and give you my updated rating for it. But I just wanted to jump in quickly to say what my next read is going to be. It's going to be Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, because this is a book that, again, I've got on my Kindle. All of these books are coming from my Kindle now, and I've also got it on Script so I can listen to the audiobook at the same time. And I've got a bit of like a wedding related, like mindless wedding stuff that I've got to be doing this afternoon. So entering all the guests on my guest list spreadsheet into the wedding website that I'm using at the moment, so my save the dates can be sent out like this weekend, or I guess it's Monday now, this long weekend I can send out all my save the dates. So I think it's a good time to really make the most of an audiobook, so I'm going to be listening to Vespertine predominantly on audio and hopefully smashing through this one and praying for a 5-star, though this is definitely a story where I know literally nothing about it. Actually, let's look up the Goodreads profile for this one and see what the blurb says. It is, the dead of Lorraine do not rest. Artemisia is training to be a Grey Sister, a nun who cleanses the bodies of the deceased so that their souls can pass on. Otherwise, they will rise as spirits with a ravenous hunger for the living. She would rather deal with the dead than the living, who trade whispers about her scarred hands and troubled past. When her convent is attacked by possessed soldiers, Artemisia defends it by awakening an ancient spirit bound to a saint's relic. It is a revenant, a malevolent being that threatens to possess her the moment she drops her guard. Wielding its extraordinary power almost consumes her, but death has come to Lorraine, and only a Vespertine, a priestess trained to wield a high relic, has any chance of stopping it. With all knowledge of Vespertine's lost to time, Artemisia turns to the last remaining expert for help, the Revenant itself. As she unravels a sinister mystery of saints, secrets, and dark magic, her bond with the Revenant grows, and when a hidden evil begins to surface, she discovers that facing this enemy might require her to betray everything she has been taught to believe if the Revenant doesn't betray her first. Okay, so it's definitely fantasy. Should be a fun read. I'm gonna give that a go this afternoon and hope for a 5-star. This is going to be book number 3, I think, in my can't stop reading until I get a 5-star. I'll come back to you in 2 secs with my actual rating for Dial A for Aunties. Okay, so my actual rating for Dial A for Aunties is 2.5 stars. So again, same rating as we had for the previous book, which now that I think about it, I cannot remember what that was. Falling Hard for the Royal Guard. Yep, so same rating, middle of the road. It's not amazing, not horrible, not the best rating. But yeah, let's crack straight into Vespertine and pray for a better one this time. You'll have to ignore my very bare face right now. I've just finished work for the day. I've just gotten home, taken my makeup off, and then realized that I never actually updated you guys on kind of where I'm at the moment and where this vlog is at the moment. It definitely has taken a bit of a turn since I last updated you. Basically what happened is I got about 10 to 15 pages into Vespertine and it hit a massive slump. Like, I did not want to read, I didn't want to do anything. I was just like fully not committed to reading it all. So I put everything down. I was like, I'm not going to try and push through this because I'm going to hate myself if I do. So I put everything down and I didn't pick up any other books for about a week. I attempted a few things here and there, but ultimately what I ended up doing is just finding a sort of new favorite TV show, I guess. And for me at the moment, that's The Rookie. It's on Now TV if you're in the UK and you're interested. It's a cop drama kind of show. It's essentially about this American guy who he's in his like mid to late 40s and he's having a sort of like a crisis. He doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. Everything's kind of falling apart around him, his family, everything. And he goes to a bank one day to just do regular bank things, and he ends up being involved in a heist. He becomes one of the victims of a heist, and after having a gun literally pointed at his face, he has a little bit of a realization that like maybe he wants to be a cop. So he becomes basically the oldest rookie in the LAPD. It's a whole thing, and I've become really obsessed with the show. I'm like 3 seasons in now because of the week that I spent not reading and just focusing on watching that. But now I'm finally back into the mood where I want to read again, and I have an update for you on sort of what I actually did get read during that like week-long break since I last spoke to you guys. And that is to say, I read Off to the Races by Elsie Silver, which is the first book in the Gold Rush Ranch, I think it's called, series. Elsie Silver, if you don't already know, wrote the Chestnut Springs series, and I think Gold Rush Ranch came before the Chestnut Springs series, but I read the Chestnut Springs series first, loved it, decided I wanted to dive into some of Elsie Silver's older work, and so I picked up Off to the Races. I ended up giving this book 3 stars because whilst I really loved the main character, I thought she was so strong, so powerful, so confident, very passionate about what she was pursuing, about the horse that she made a real beautiful connection with. I thought she was an amazing sort of main character to follow. I really didn't like the male main character, and I don't think they were well well matched as a couple. I think their relationship was very, very much based in lust and physical attraction, and then the only sort of emotional moments you would get would be from the female character's point of view, whose name I can't even remember now, which kind of ruined this whole relationship a little bit because it really made the guy seem like he was only in it for the sex and the lust and the physicalness of it all. But as for the rest of the story, it's definitely like a guilty pleasure kind of story in that you get really wrapped up in the angst and the tension, and the stakes are really high because both of them are keeping secrets about their personalities, and they're trying to push this horse that's basically untrainable into being able to win a race. The writing's pretty good, although a little bit cliche at times. All in all, like the atmosphere, the setting, and everything around these two characters was really, really good. It's just the two characters themselves that I really didn't like. Anyway, that is my thoughts on Off to the Races. I still gave it 3 stars. It was definitely a guilty pleasure read and I did enjoy myself, but wasn't outstanding. So I decided that I was going to go down a completely different avenue for my attempt at finding my next 5-star read. And so I picked up Twin Crowns by Katherine Weber and Katherine Doyle. And I'm about halfway through it now and I'm really enjoying it. The world building of it is amazing. The two main characters that I am following in this story are very, very addictive. I'm really, really feeling like I'm getting to know them, and the stakes are so high in this story, but I don't want to go too much into my review of it because that'll be for the next clip once I've finished it, but I will tell you what it's about. And essentially it follows 2 women. So you've got Rose, who is a princess in the kingdom of Yana, I think it's called, and she's kind of been sheltered all her life after she was orphaned following the death of her parents when she was just a baby. She's had the protection of a guy named Willem, who's called the King's Breath or something, and he's essentially been leading the persecution of witches in this land and has raised her to believe that witches are horrible, bad things and she should fear them and he will protect her. It's coming up to her 18th birthday when the story takes place, and she is set to inherit the crown because she's finally old enough, until Wren comes along, and Wren is her twin sister that she didn't even know she had. And essentially what Wren does is she kidnaps Rose and forces her to go off to where the witches live so that Wren can take her place and take the crown and can finally restore the witches to their rightful position of power, to their heritage, to their land. It's a super, super interesting read so far, and I'm really, really looking forward to when these two sisters are reunited, because at the moment in the story they very much know that each other exists. So yeah, that is what I'm reading at the moment. Like I said, I'm about halfway through. I'm really, really enjoying it, but I am praying and praying and praying that this is my 5-star read because I have other content that I need to be filming right now and I need this vlog to finish soon. So pray for me, fingers crossed. Let me know in the comments down below if you think this is going to be my 5-star read. We shall see, and I will update you in a little bit. Hey, it is Tuesday morning. I just wanted to jump in here very, very quickly to announce, say, excitedly proclaim that it is officially the end of this vlog because I have found my 5-star read, and that was Twin Crowns by Katherine Doyle and Katherine Weber. I had so much fun in this read, unexpectedly, because I went into it with my reservations because it is a YA fantasy romance and I'm not usually the biggest fan of YA fantasy romance, but this one really knocked it out of the park. The characters were absolutely addictive. They were amazing to follow. I love how each of them had such distinctive voices. You know, Rose was this more naive, more demure, more proper sort of girl, whereas Wren was more bold and brash and, you know, more willing to fight for her cause. And each of them was so, so distinctive, but each of them grew so exponentially throughout the story as they were exposed to each other's worlds. Their viewpoint changed and what they thought was true changed. Rose especially learned a ton in this book, which I really enjoyed learning that alongside her. It made it not info dumpy when relaying the history of this world and building the world, because you were learning it alongside one of the characters rather than just being sort of told it in background. I really liked the romantic interest as well, and I loved that each of the romantic interests had like a sort of sidekick that was an animal. I didn't think that that could be, you know, just a mistake, that both of them had such intense relationships with this animal. I think both of them are witches as well, because Tor definitely gave hints to me that he at least either was a witch or knew witches, was more accepting of witches. But I think the girls were both really, really well matched with the guys that they ended up with. So I will admit the very, very end was a cliffhanger for one of the relationships, so I'm super, super keen to see how that's going to develop in the next book. The atmosphere and the setting was just palpable. It took me a minute to get into this book, but once I was in, it really really kicked off with a bang. You know, the plot got started immediately with the kidnapping of one of the girls, but then it took a step back and did a bit of world building, did a bit of plot building, did a bit of relationship building before it went straight back into the sort of core elements of the plot of this takeover of the kingdom, of this rebellion. And I thought that was really, really perfect because it reels you into the story and then it gives you the background that you need and then it pushes you back in again. So the pacing was really, really great. I was definitely really, really surprised by the ending of this story. I did not expect it to turn out the way that it did, which is making me really, really excited to pick up the sequel, Cursed Crowns, which is out, and it's a duology, so it's something I can finish really, really quickly. I think I've got the audiobook on Scribd as well, so I can just smash this series out really, really fast. So this is officially my 5-star read of this vlog. I'm so excited we finally got here because, man, at one point it did feel like this vlog was going to go on for literally forever, and I have other vlogs that I have planned that I need to start filming and need to start reading for. But anyway, we're here and I'm so happy about it. So let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this video and if you've read any of the books that I read, what you think of them, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys and I do my best to reply to every single comment. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!